topics and opinions expressed on the following show are solely those of the host and their guests, and not those of W4CS Radio, its employees, or affiliates. W4CS makes no recommendations or endorsements for radio show programs, services, or products mentioned on air or on our web. Any questions or comments should be directed to those show hosts. Thank you for listening to the Cancer Support Network on W4CS.com.
Hi, welcome everyone. It's Arthi with Light Up Your Life, and today is Friday, April the 30th. It's the last day of April of 2021. As you know, each and every day is a different day, and we never get the day back again. So whatever we can do to make the best of it. I've been talking to you a lot about heavy hearts and heavy minds, and I know while we're approaching this beautiful weather, I always want to remind us that just to soak in the sun when we can, also to count our blessings. As many of you know, my family is originally from India, and so my heart is definitely aching for all of those tragic deaths that are occurring with COVID. And I just want to remind us, when we do think of freedom, to account for the fact that we still need to mask up. Make sure you wear your mask when and as needed. And just remember, this is just a temporary situation. We're not going to be with masks all the time, but I really encourage you to take the necessary precautions, because we still are not at our herd immunity yet, which means that we really want to be cautious with our loved ones. And even if you think about it, our loved ones is our whole global community. So I just wanted to send that message on. My other one real quick is, I always love this forum. Personally, I had received an email from my uncle, which wasn't actually my uncle. I realized this week he had gone through some identity theft. But I also want to remind you that I think that sometimes we think that scams and identity theft can only occur with our elderly community. But with me, myself, I also was asked for some gift cards because it was exchanged that he wasn't able to travel. And I actually didn't even check with my uncle because I figured he was asking me. And of course, right away, psychological play happened. And so what I'm trying to say to you all is, I consider myself fairly educated. I consider myself pretty smart, but even myself was part of this whole idea behind a scam. And I just want to remind you that no one is immune to anything. I don't want you to ever think that something cannot occur. I don't want you to think of judgment. And I share this with you because I want to remind us as a community that we need to make sure that we always trust our gut. My gut was telling me something was not right when I was being approached by which was not my uncle, of course, at that time, but somebody else. But what I'm trying to get at is trust your gut and also forgive yourself. I spent last night and this morning really being not humbling with myself and and asking myself how I could have been so stupid to respond to something that just didn't seem right. But then I'm also forgiving myself, because this is what's happening across our nation and our world. So if you do receive an email asking for gift cards or anything from a family member, please always be cautious. And those of you who have had something occur, please report it. I stayed up last night and wrote to the FTC, the Federal Trade Commission, the FBI site. I also reported to our economics crime unit, and they were telling me the more that we report these things, the more that things can happen where we can also put a stop to it. So on that side note, I always want to use this platform to always discuss what's happening in our world as well. So, so thank you for that. All right. With further ado, let me introduce our special guest today. So Natasha Wanzer has been a friend of mine for a very long time. And to be honest with you, we kind of lost touch for a while, but COVID actually allowed us to reconnect. And for so many of you, you've had family and friends that you might have gotten a chance to reconnect with. Remember, we've talked about polarities and good and bad. And the thing that has come out of this is sometimes you've got to reconnect with souls that you really missed and you really wanted to be a part of your life again. So, Natasha, on her journey, while I've been taking my own journey, we actually used to work together at a company called Jamboree Play and Music for kids, and which tells you her passion also for children. And so we had met along that journey, and progressively in the journey we both were taking individually and now have discussed collectively. She has a huge passion for yoga. She always did, but then she became a certified yoga instructor. She has gone through many hardships, but has always found a way to use her positivity and also her community and her internal self to really grow and blossom and flourish. And she has discovered that she really wants to use social influence to help really use her voice in an awesome, awesome format. Her Instagram has a following of wonderful souls themselves, and it's called Motivation Matters. And she'll share a lot with us about how she uses that platform to really reach people across our nation and also who are globally tuning in. Natasha has lots of other great things she'll be discussing with us, but I really am excited for her also now that she's a holistic wellness practitioner. So when we started talking, I was so excited because we really are doing so many similar things in our life. And anytime that I get a chance to talk to her now, it's like this flowing conversation. So we decided our topic today would be called Healing Through Love. There has been a lot of loss for many of you, and a loss for her and loss for me, and wherever we are, we all feel it. But she and I are discussing the topic of healing through love today. So without further ado, I'd like you all to meet Natasha. Natasha, are you able to unmute your mic? Oh, there you are.
Hello. How is everyone this morning? I know that technology can kind of stumble us a little bit. This is the world we live in. Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much, Artie, for having me on. I'm just making little tweaks here and there. Make sure you all can see my face and hear me clearly. I'm Natasha Wanzer. It is a pleasure to be here today. Such an honor. Thank you so much, Artie, for that introduction. I'm just very humbled to be here. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I love that word humble because humble and love in my vocabulary go together. So can you actually start off by just sharing your little bit about yourself so our audience knows about you and wherever you want that conversation to go?
Yeah, so you explained very well. Thank you so much for that introduction. I am Natasha Motivation Matters. You all can find me on IG at all lowercase Natasha _ one word Motivation Matters. And I started to use my social media as a way to kind of redefine what my mission was going to be as far as how it would reach people. I've always had this passion to reach people in a positive way, and yoga has always been a part of that. When I started yoga almost 20 years ago, still deciding, well, how am I going to go about reaching people with yoga? How am I going to touch the masses? And sometimes it's always about taking the journey and enjoying that journey. And so it took some years to get to the place where I was able to get certified. And then I started to say I wanted to really open up my life so people could see not just what I was up gratitude, but mostly for making real connections and making real genuine connections. And so I decided to change my IG name, my IG handle. I started to have more of a theme to posting and sharing, and always being aware of being very conscious of what I was putting out there to my audience and to the people that I loved and that I cared about. And so it became when my son was born almost 2 years ago in July. And I was just so incredibly shocked that I was able to give birth, and so as a mom, as a new mother, a first-time mother, you are amazed at what your body can do and how it heals. And so I wanted to just share that with other women. I wanted to make the connection with other moms, and another passion of mine. So on top of wanting to make this connection in a healthy way through Motivation Matters, I wanted to connect to women of color, really start to show that you can overcome any circumstances that come your way. And, some days are going to be harder than others, but I believe that as you practice the mindfulness and the practice of mindfulness, setting true intentions are the way to go in being able to heal from videos and pictures of what I was doing on my day to day with my son, and just sharing with people, just saying, hey, I'm with you. I'm human just like you are from the inside out. And yeah, we're doing this together. But I always continue to, again, just have that mindfulness of what is my purpose? What can I do to make things a little bit easier for people today, and for myself as well? And so it's a work of, it's a great art of work that I'm glad that God was able to reveal to me that this is what I'm mostly passionate about. I'm passionate about people. I'm passionate about healing and just saying, yeah, we've been through some things, but we can get through it. And yeah, so that's my story.
I love it. I love when the idea behind passion comes through you getting to do what you love through work, right? And then it's no longer even called work. Right?
Yes,
like it's not even called
absolutely.
work anymore, because there's a different depth, or there's a different denotation to the word work when you get to do what you love. But would you say, Natasha, that you had to take that leap of faith to even do something that's not considered, like using a different format of doing work than what might have been expected of you, or what you thought would? Yeah, I'm just curious to know how you approach that.
Yeah, so I literally got to a place where I had to humble myself. And one thing that became a resounding theme for me that I was hearing within my soul, within my spirit, and just around me, the theme of you have a light to share, so share it. If you have a gift, then share it. And it doesn't matter whether people approve or like it or not, it is something that lights up in you. And if it lights up in you and it gives you this overall floral of feelings of, I just want to this is what I love to do. This is what I want to do. And, how dare us be selfish and not share it with the world? I know for a very long time, and this was kind of dealt a lot with my upbringing, where you were taught to be very humble, whether you had this gift in music or art, or, just knowing that there's other people that are better than you out there was always always the imprint that I had in my mind. And so what that did was that halted me from wanting to go further into my real passions. And so I allowed that to be the mountain that stood in my way of becoming something bigger. And so I said, after a while, for some years, it took some time to get the courage to get brave enough to say, I do this because I love it, not because other people do. Someone might do the same thing that I do, and that's okay. We might all have something in common, but it's the way that it is given. We are the vessel. We're different vessels that are able to communicate with many different people and connect to many different people. So why be selfish about it? We have to share.
My gosh, yes, that's so beautiful. The light, of course, the concept behind what I just believe, and it reminds you of what yoga means to you because you bring up light and how you just had, and once you get in tune to that mind, body, spirit, you just realize that gift or gifts are meant to be shared. And I do think that anyone I get at the opportunity when they have incorporated yoga truly in there, like you said, the vessel, they really take this mindset on. Don't you feel like that?
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. I think that I'm so grateful for my journey with yoga because yoga was the place that helped me practice mindfulness. A lot of times, before we become aware of ourselves, we're obviously unaware and we're detached and we're not in tune with maybe some things that we have been doing that have maybe been detrimental to us, or it's been self-sabotage to ourselves, or where we've hurt ourselves and hurt others, right? And so the idea is when we come to a place in yoga of mindfulness, it is to slow down the mind. It is slow the process down. It forces you to be in a place of stillness and quietness, and you'd be amazed. I mean, it's not the easiest job in the world. It's not the easiest thing to do in the world, to practice yoga, no matter the modality. But when we're talking about meditation, even when we start to focus on meditation and think, well, meditation is to sit and ponder and to acknowledge that some of those thoughts are going to come up, the thoughts that we can get to later, right? The grocery store, running errands, picking children up, remembering to grab your mask before you leave the house, all of these things. But when you're able to come to a place of stillness, there's something about that just awakens the soul. And you're able to really be more present and even more mindful of how the patterns of your thinking and how that goes. And so it takes time. It takes a lot of time, but it is doable.
Yes, yeah, it's so true. It is doable, but it is time and practice. I always also think about the fact that we are I believe it's 99.6 or 8, I can't remember, DNA of chimps. And so we are animals, right? We are mammals, we are animals. And the only difference that offsets us is our human mind. But if we become still, then we do get to go back to being in this true form of like that. Like when you watch an animal in nature, they are so in tune with they'll get so focused on finding their food, or they'll get so focused on just being with their herd or their pack or their flock or whatever, right? And it reminds me that is the place where you can go back to your humbleness of being a true and like a mammal, which essentially we all are as humans.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, I think that it's, when we realize things like that, when we look at animals in their natural form and how they just perform and do what they're just born to do. You know, we are blessed beyond measure to be extremely advanced, to be able to do multiple tasks and to do multiple things. And our thinking is so much more complex. And, you know, we are able to stretch beyond our means physically. You know, the body is just amazing. I remember my time in massage school and being able to study the anatomy of the body and the makeup of the body. And like, wow, all of these organs and the way that things are flowed and covered and protected, it's so advanced and it's beautiful. It's a beautiful thing.
That is, yeah, you're so right. So Natasha, I always tell our audience, our listeners and our viewers that while we have definitions in our world and while we have things that are social constructs, we also want to get inside of ourselves to know what is your definition for things. So I want to ask you, what is your definition of healing and what is your definition of love and what does it mean to you in your life? That's like three questions in one. But anyways, kind of like that overall concept of what does love look like to you? What does healing look like to you? And then what is it, what has it, or what does it mean for you in your own life?
That's a really great question. I think healing looks like, they look like the process of like building a home, right? The analogy of when you're building a brick home, when you're building a home, it takes time. It requires structure, right? So when you're layering brick by brick, the internal makeup of that home within the structure, that's where the work starts, right? When you're building a home. So it's from the inside out, it's not the other way around. And so when I think of healing, I think of the structure of a home. There has to be some strength and some sturdiness within before it comes out. And as far as love, I believe that love is, it can be infinite. It can be spread to anyone and everyone and shared to anyone and everyone. It's not the easiest thing to give, but it is a gift. It's a gift to give and a gift to receive. And the way that that love showed up for me in my life was, again, I have to say my son. He showed me so many different ways of how I wanted to be and how I wanted to show up. Just more than beyond just being a mother, just how I will show up and be in this place, in this universe. And so we all have our place. We all have, there's place, there's room for us to take up in this world, right? You know, sometimes we may want to shy away from not, you know, having the belief that we can do something, whether it is being a mother, whether it is being a father, you know, whether it's being a friend, a sister, or a brother. We have this space that we can take up together. And, you know, love is a practice. Love really is, it takes time. It really does. But love mostly shows up for me personally every day when I see my son and the way that he's growing just massively. He's growing so fast, and I always am in awe of him. And then again, I do want to bring up that word humbleness again, because humbling myself to see him go from, you know, this tiny, you know, this baby that, you know, needs my protection and swaddled in, you know, in blankets, to running and seeing this growth and seeing this journey and seeing how advanced he's become and how he sees the world and how he views me and how he looks at me. Um, it does make me, it helps me love myself more. I know that as a mom, I did not know if I was worthy enough to care for him and take care of him. And, you know, like every mother, you're freaking out. You're like, oh my gosh, I have another human being that I have to care for. And it's a scary thing, but it is, it's, it's one of those things where when you are just, you just, receive, right? You don't hold on too tight, and you're like, I'm going to trust that my internal instincts that are already there within me to be able to do this, and having the courage and just the belief. It's a belief that you can do it. It's the belief in yourself that you have what it takes. And we've heard it before. There is no manual to parenthood. There isn't. But there is love. There is love. Love is there. Love is available. And so I believe that showing examples of that, to him, that makes me proud, because, he is a very lovable boy. And, he does love to cuddle, and he likes his hugs, for maybe 2 minutes or so. And then he wants an example. We show each other love through action. Sometimes saying it is a big thing. And so I think it's all in how we use it. It's all how we display it, and how we can either see the natural way that it already works, and how we reciprocate that is a beautiful thing.
Totally. I found myself, when you were talking, thinking about what love does look like as a parent, as a mother, because you do learn to love yourself in a different way. And it's true. I could hear that resonating theme as you were talking. Like, you learn to accept yourself in a whole nother way that you might not have. And I've heard this a lot in women who are it's not even just about the decades, the 20s, 30s, or 40s. We already know the decades, especially for women, have a different type of self-expression, but what it looks like when you do wear the mother hat, and how that also transforms you, and how you accept yourself and love yourself. So for you to bring that up is such an awesome point. I think and for those, and I don't always, when we talk about motherhood, it's not even that maternal needing to be maternal love comes in so many shapes and forms. I talk about pets a lot too with my kids. Like, that is somebody's baby. That you're a mother when you have that pet, or a father, or.
Yes.
I just want to remind our listeners and viewers, it's not just, I think we need to not always use that word parenthood, where everybody is feeling like, oh, it's when I birth a human. We need to recognize that birthing is a process that's not just, and loving on something is not just about loving on a human, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yes.
Yeah. So, Natasha, this is a really loaded question, but and I don't even know, we could go on it forever. But forgiveness and love. Tell me about how we heal with forgiveness and through love and healing. If you have anything that you share with your followers, or anything that you have found that resonates with you when you think of forgiveness and healing with the concept of love, because I actually find that it takes an exorbitant amount of love to be able to forgive, I feel.
Absolutely. I believe that when it comes to forgiveness, and you wanting to, you love something or someone so much, and whatever the scenario might be, you find yourself in a place where you are almost having to defend yourself as well. You want to be able to, it's like, how do you find the balance with it all? How do I balance forgiveness? How do I balance protecting myself without overbearing, without completely lashing out, or being in a revengeful state? Forgiveness is it is a touchy subject, but I know in my personal life, when it comes to forgiveness, it is always a choice. Just like everything else in life. You can either choose to forgive yourself. I think, when we think about forgiveness, we also forget about forgiving ourselves as well. And when we make a mistake, or when we say something that may have been harsh or too brash, and we are trying to find a way to release that bubble that we've been holding on to of regret, whatever that might be. Forgiving yourself is allowed too. And so that's where I believe it starts. It starts with, how are you loving yourself first, and then how are you also finding ways to forgive yourself? When we are facing conflict with, again, with people in our lives, we automatically want to shut them out, shut them off, and cut them out completely, right? And I learned that that's not always the way. It's not always the answer. I do believe that sometimes you have to make space. You have to provide space between you and another person. And you also have to create boundaries. What do your boundaries look like? Have you set those boundaries? And so it's okay to say these are things that you're not going to tolerate. These are things that you will not allow because you've set a boundary for yourself. And so boundaries can be the protection barrier. And while you're building that, you're also practicing your self love, and you're also looking for the fact that you wanting to forgive someone is forgiving yourself first. It really does start there. So ask yourself, when you are in a situation where you are, angry at a person, your partner, your spouse, a friend, whatnot. And also think of it as, what can I learn from this? What have I taken from this situation and this matter? Because there's a learning lesson in everything. There's it presents itself in so many different examples. And so are you going to respond? Are you going to react? Or are you going to take a moment to say, what are my boundaries? What am I going to appreciate? What am I not going to appreciate with this situation? And then how does this make me feel in this moment? Does this feel like I am feeling like love is being taken away from me, respect, those types of things? I feel like I'm having something taken away from me. And then if you feel that way, definitely saying to self, all right, I love myself no matter what. I know that I am human. I know I'm going to make mistakes. So let me forgive myself first. And I feel that when you start there with self, that is where you can actually start doing the work and saying, okay, I'm able to maybe forgive a little bit. I'm able to maybe allow some space between me and this other individual or whatnot. I know it works very differently when you're talking about relationships, with your spouse, because you then talk about something else that is the key, which is communication. And so, that's a whole other thing. You can't go running off. I mean, it's not to say that does not happen or has not happened. But, in a relationship, like that, when you're with a spouse, you think about, why you do love that person so much and how you might be able to move through the complication of the issue, whatever it might be. And sometimes it comes down to the communication. It comes down to what she hears or what he hears. And it's okay, how do we get on a very equal, fair playing plane right now? How do we operate from a place of fairness and where we're both being heard? And so, there's so many different levels to that. But forgiveness for me, when I think about it, I do think about how I feel in the moment. I feel like, okay, well, how am I taking this? How is this kind of being absorbed into my emotions right now? And then how am I going to respond? So I really do believe it starts with the self-love. It starts with self-love first. How much do I love myself? And just because I get into a disagreement or some kind of disconnect with someone doesn't mean I have to have to love myself less. That should always still be a priority. That cup filled with love for yourself should always be filled when you are dealing with that kind of situation. And it's not always easy, when you're in the moment. But I think it's a good reminder to say that, you're having a difficult moment, you're not getting along in the moment. You want to say, okay, it's okay to disagree, and not always be on the same plane. But again, I just believe that, having that compassion and love for yourself, and forgiving yourself first. That's, I think, that is a good playing level. That's where you can start first at ground zero. So.
You're right. You're so right about that healing through love concept when you have to actually go in. While you were talking, I had this image of our heart. Like our heart is inside of us. It is an inward, and in order to give, right? And you talk about cup burning. I just had this mental image, like you do have to repair and you do have to do the work in here in order for that true outpouring that we are desiring to give, or the love that we wish to share. And so it just reminded me, like, while you're talking, how forgiveness has to work again on the inside first in order to maximize out the forgiveness that is, and you forget, right? You forget because you're always focused on the outward. I myself am like, oh my gosh, how do I learn to forgive that person for what they have done or whatever wrongdoing that I feel like has been done to me? Yet I haven't reflected on going inward and being like, what is it? What is it? And what part am I grappling with? What is the relationship? I love this person. They love me. What is it that I'm grappling with in the forgiveness module in my realm? So I'm glad you brought that up because we hear it all the time. But today I can honestly tell you, like, that image of going, like, our heart is inside of our bodies, right? Like we've been talking today about the body. Like, it is so magnificent. The human mind is so magnificent, yet it is all inside of us, housed in this. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Yes. Yes. I love that you went back to that imagery of how it's all from the inside of us and how our body houses all of those beautiful, intricate details of ourselves. It's no different from, when we are thinking about how we can give that outwardly. It's no different. So yeah, that was a beautiful analogy.
Yeah. I just thought of it when you were talking. Just came to me. But Natasha, Can you talk about your own health? Because now you are you also are a health and wellness practitioner. Can you share with us, our listeners and our viewers, about your own health journey, and what do you think it means to heal, like, through love in our health? Like, what does that look like for you?
Yeah. So I was a meat eater for a very, very long time. And that always,
you're not the only one.
And there are probably meat eaters here on the show today. No offense whatsoever.
No, none.
But I just want to say that, in my former life, I did engage in that. And so I didn't really start making the decision I had already been really, really passionate about my health. I started working out in my early 20s, like 27. I was going to the gym often. It's where I also found yoga. And I found myself just, wanting to stay at the gym, go to the gym, work out, stay in shape, get the results, whatever they were going to look like, and kept at it. And I was so grateful because when I did start my yoga practice, it's where I actually met my very, very good friend. She was my yoga instructor, and now we're still friends to this day. So again, we're talking almost 15 years. But she was the one that kind of showed me the way. And I started to learn even then the importance of when you are, it's not about just, some people have goals, right? You set goals for yourself. And, if you're setting health goals, I believe you got to take it slow. I don't think that it's necessary to just jump the gun and, say, oh my gosh, I want to lose, 30 to 50 pounds in a month or 2 months or whatnot. I just think that it's really good to pace yourself. And so I started really, really running with the whole, I want to see results. I want to see results and see results. And they came in a great way. But then they came quickly. And so I will never forget one day, I was probably maybe a member at a gym for about a year at this point. And one of the personal trainers who always saw me, I was there, for 5 days a week. And he said, "You've lost a lot of weight." And it actually struck a nerve with me because I thought I was going to get positive reinforcement for my outward appearance, right? And so, again, this is 27, 28 years old. And, when you're that age anyway, you are concerned about how you look. And so, it did strike a little bit of nerve in me. And I said, oh my gosh, he's saying I look so thin. And, I was starting to hear that after, often more and more and more, like, oh my gosh, you've lost so much weight. And then it became a negative thing. Like, you lost so much weight. Are you sick? Like, are you okay? And then I said, wow, no, I just literally made this transition of, not eating, I was doing meal replacements a lot. So I found myself, instead of, I was still doing chicken at the time. So I was lean chicken and tofu, but I wasn't eating meat, like beef. I was finding myself kind of going by the routine that I was, told in a practiced manner that, you're supposed to have your 3 meals a day, but in between you're supposed to have your snacks. And I was doing exactly that. So the outward appearance was actually the reflection of that. It was the result of me doing that exact plan. So anyways, we fast forward later, and health and food has still always been my passion. On my IG page, you guys can see some of the things that I, made and would, I like to share with, everyone. Fun, short breakfast ideas. And I had a lot of plates on there, because that was another passion of mine, was taking pictures of my plates. Everything that I made, I love to share it with people. And I found a lot of my old posts were actually meat, and I transitioned from the meat to more of a pescatarian lifestyle just within the year. And so I made that decision sometime around like last summer into fall. I really started to want to teeter with that, and see how I could do. It was never easy. I can tell you, I always still had the yearning for some chicken. But again, there's no judgment to any of the viewers that are here today that do, engage in that. I do believe that it is important to, have a conversation with your doctor, though. If you do have a doctor, if you do have a primary care physician, definitely discuss those things with them. If you have a great relationship with them, that's one person that you can relate to. In a more holistic way, there's a big community of holistic healers out that are offering so much support, and they're showing so many ideas and ways to be able to care for yourself. And so more catering to the holistic way for me, that was how I felt that was going to work for me. I said, okay, pescatarian lifestyle, that's what I feel that I need to go with. So, that's always been a passion of mine, is just through food. Food is life. Food is there's so many great things as long as you're doing the work as far as finding what's going to work for your body composition. So, yeah.
I'm so glad you brought that up. That's so true. Body composition. And, Natasha, talk about the meat thing. I never thought I would be able to give up certain things too, because I grew up, my dad loved meat. And even after he passed, my mom, it took us a while together to make the decision to go vegetarian. But there were things that you naturally crave. I did miss the chicken. I don't know what, everybody seems to always crave the chicken, or some people it's really the hamburger. But what I want to remind people is, if you do decide, first of all, try to lose the judgment of yourself with anything. When you're trying to give up anything, if you are trying to minimize your alcohol use, if you're trying to minimize your sweet tooth, or just be humble, back to this healing through love concept. Natasha talked, Rome wasn't built in a day, you all, right? Like nothing is built. We talked about that foundation of the house. Nothing is built overnight. And you do forgive and pardon yourself when you do have a little slip up. Or did you really, and if you don't even consider it a slip up, you may be someone who wants to do meatless Mondays, or you may be someone who wants to have whatever your life that you want to create looks like, is that humbleness, you know?
Absolutely. Yes, I totally agree. And that's why I said, to whoever is viewing, the video, I think it's really important to just understand what your body needs. But it's also okay to listen to, the change that your body is craving. So I listened to that instinct, and my body said, we need a change. Let's change it up a little bit. And I definitely found myself not really missing, the chicken or the beef. I had quit pork years ago, but I love the pescatarian lifestyle. I know that I'm obsessed and love salmon and shrimp, and those are like my go-tos. But I'm so open to the plant-based, substitutions and what they have. And there's obviously some work that goes along with that, to ensure that you're ingesting and purchasing the right type of plant-based items. But yeah, I think it's all about intuition and listening to what your body really needs.
Oh, so true, that concept. Well, Natasha, we have just a few minutes left. What would you like to let our viewers and our listeners, what's a parting message you'd like to leave them with today?
Oh my goodness. I definitely want to just say, definitely walk with grace and remember to always love yourself the best way you can. Understand what your love languages are, how you function, and show up in the world. Show up in your world, to the people that need you. And if you have a gift and a talent and you have a passion and love to reach people and to start something, start a business, or, start classes or online classes or whatever you feel was really deep within your heart, I say definitely don't stop, keep going, and continue to rally around the people that are going to encourage you and lift you up, and create your tribe.
That's great. And where can because we do have radio listeners too. What's the best way to get in touch with you
Yes. So my IG is again all lowercase, Natasha, Natasha, lowercase, Motivation Matters, on all one word. You can also email me at Nicole, Nicole, letter N, Wanzer @gmail.com. I also have a website called Reflection of Me. It is on the GoDaddy websites. So it is all lowercase, reflectionofme.godaddysite.com. And yes, that's where you can find me. So definitely connect. I love connecting to other people and just creating these great relationships with people. So yes, you can find me there.
Thanks so much, Natasha, for being on our show today. So appreciate it. I love all of our conversations so much.
Yes, I know. Same. Thank you so much. It was such a pleasure. It really was a true honor to be here. Thank you so much.
So much. Y'all, thank you so much for listening in to another episode of Light Up Your Life. And want to remind you, like Natasha was saying, like all of our past speakers have spoken, and what I always encourage is the idea of humbleness and authenticity and love, like we've been talking about, for yourself. So next week will be a solo show for me. It's the first of the month, and I will often try to do those. And we're going to talk about easy ways to look at working with our wonderful organ called our brain, and giving us some tips and whatnot to work with that. As always, the light in me shines for the light in you. And I hope you have a wonderful week ahead. And thanks for tuning in. See you next week.